Hello everyone, and welcome to this video which is in our Chess960 series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and we are going to be taking a look at a game between the favourite engine of every TCEC chatter, Weiss, and Minic. And they are playing double Fischer Random. What is double Fischer Random? Well, take a look at the board and you'll see that, the pieces of both sides are shuffled, but they're shuffled differently. In other words, not symmetrically. What does that give? Well, it gives a lot more initial starting positions and also a huge variety in assessment, which is fantastic for engine chess. Now, looking at this position, White actually has a reasonably large advantage. Why is that? Well, first of all, we've got a little problem with the black knights, which are in the corners. And, well, normally you fight for the centre with a pawn supported by a knight. Well, black's knights are going to have a little bit of a problem fighting for the centre in that way. So White's quite likely to get quite a big space advantage. There's also one specific problem, which is the pawn on h7, which is undefended and that could be attacked by a queen on b1. Yeah, I mean, how do you shield that pawn? If you play a move like g6, then the knight on h8 is well, not going to get developed very easily. If you put the knight to g6, well, it might get targeted by a move like h4 to h5. h4 to h5, you say? Well, that's what Weiss did on the very first move, 1h4. That's the beauty of Chess960 in any of its formats, that 1h4 or 1a4 can be the best move. So, yeah, I ran a number of games between Stockfish and Komodo. I'm laughing because I started first of all using the Fritz GUI, and it turned out that the Fritz GUI doesn't support double Fischer Random. So actually it was not allowing any of the engines to castle. So they actually ended up playing no castling double Fischer Random. But I've actually switched to the Hayek's Explorer GUI, which I'm using here, and that does it perfectly. So I ran the engine matches on there, which worked pretty well. Now h5 was Stockfish's choice, which seems very sensible, just stopping the march of the rook's pawn and actually giving this knight on g6, you know, some sort of decent chances of being reasonably stable. Well, you know, a typical game went c3, knight g6, just stopping the queen coming to h7, which would have been very embarrassing. e3, e6, bishop d3, knight e7. Very nice maneuver there. Takes black a while to you know, redeploy the knight from h8, but now it's on a decent square. Bishop h7 played to stop black from castling kingside. But in this position, you know, black was doing sort of all right, and yeah, we just got a draw there between Dragon and Stockfish. With black after 1h4, Komodo was actually preferring c6 in this position, c3 g6. Which, yeah, I don't know. I mean, feels very, very strange to play g7 to g6. I mean, you know, it blocks in the knight on h8, and, well, there's also h5, you know, to attack it immediately. But Komodo was doing this quite a lot in my games, just castling into it, and actually doing quite well. And, yeah, I mean, it got quite sharp quite quickly, as you can see. Crazy stuff. f4, g5. We get this move, and then we get a piece sacrifice. Komodo really going for it very nicely, you know, with quite a big initiative there. Of course, you know, Stockfish held it, but you know, very nice play from black. Although, yeah, you still do wonder about this knight on h8 here. But it must be said that by move 27, Komodo had got it into e5, and black had decent compensation for the bishop pair. So, you know, lots of interesting stuff there. Minic played c5, sort of fighting for the centre, but, you know, as I said, because you're sort of lacking knights to support the central pawns, you know, White's always likely to end up with a central space advantage there. c3 played, little threat, not so little actually. Queen takes h7. So g6 played, and that's already very positive for White. You know, I feel that knight is on h8, can't get out to g6. E4 played, and we've sort of got some sort of c3 Sicilian really, but where it's going to be very easy for white to achieve d4. e6 played, and this is an interesting little move. The idea actually wasn't obvious to me at the start, is to play the move f5 in order to free the knight to come out to f7. Decent idea, positional idea in principle. Yeah, it's going to turn out very risky. Weiss played knight e3, f5, and I mean, it feels a little loose, right, to only make pawn moves like this, but you know, this structure does seem pretty solid, doesn't it? You know, you wouldn't really think that that it's going to collapse right away, but Weiss remembers the weak or undefended pawn on h7 and really goes for it. So e takes f5, g takes f5, and g4. And of course, if f takes g4, we've just got queen takes h7. So already, yeah, Minic's position is collapsing. I mean, this plan of going f5 was a pretty decent one. I mean, Stockfish did this, but with just a little bit more caution, you know, to make sure that that nothing terrible was happening. But here, after g4, Minic goes absolutely bananas. b5, gf, first pawn sack, bishop d6, second pawn sack, f takes e6, bishop b7, giving up another pawn, queen takes h7, hitting the rook on g8, castle queenside, e takes d7 check, king c7. Let's count up the pawns. White's got 7 and black's got 3. That's 4 pawns sacrifice before move 10. Can you believe it? The one positive thing about it, though, is that the bishop is attacking the rook on h1, and you can't really move the rook on h1 because the bishop on g1 hangs. So what is Weiss going to do? Well, Weiss decided just to give back the rook. So what have we got here? Bishop h2, takes, takes, takes. We've got a position in which white has got it's 4 pawns for a rook. And the black king is rather weak here. Yeah, in actual fact, white is quite a bit better. But you know, in a human game, yeah, could be many adventures still to come. So knight b3 played, queen b6, d4, and Minic decided here not to try and open up the centre. We get hit by castle's queenside, and then the rook would be in play. But just to play king c7, knight takes c5. Weiss picks up a 5th pawn for the rook. The most important thing, though, in this is that the white king is extremely safe. You know, and there's a lot of passive black pieces as well. So you know, really, white's got quite a bit of time to improve its position, and yeah, very hard for to think what black is actually doing. But black keeps on trying. King b8, queen e7, knight g6, queen g5. So just getting this queen in contact with the dark squares, you know, and also maybe looking over here, looking at this b pawn. Knight c7, h5. Knight goes back to h8. Yeah, tough to find a square for the knight, really. Can't go to h4, f4, e5, e7, knight f8 allows queen d8. So queen f4, pinning the knight. Rook df8, queen h2, gaining a nice tempo. And bishop f3. So, I mean, how has the position changed? Black's got itself a little bit more active, but, you know, the white king is still extremely safe. So bishop b2, bishop b7, a4, and now white's trying to open up some more lines on the queen side. And of course, if you do something like b takes a4, yeah, I mean, even something like rook takes a4 followed by rook b4 has got to be considered, you know, quite apart from moves like knight c4 as well. So very, very dangerous for black. So, well, black makes another attempt to activate the knight. A takes b5, that's... how many pawns is that? A 6th one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, a 6th pawn for the rook, and queen d6. Takes, takes. Well, I've never seen a material balance like this. 6 pawns for a rook. Of course, you know, white is still in superb shape here. You know, the d7 pawn is very awkward. White's king extremely safe. This one's passed as well. very hard for black to get at the white position. But again, you know, in a human game, I wouldn't feel totally confident about the result here. But Weiss finds some fantastic moves from now on. Knight g4 played. Knight is blocking the g file, supporting the h pawn, and this knight can also come round into e5. Knight d takes b5, pawn goes, h6, knight d6, h7, rook g7, and now, well, you know, if you want to do a little bit of tactical training, then you could probably just stop the video here and have a little look, because the next sequence is absolutely superb. So what does Weiss do? Well, the h7 pawn is hanging. The knight on g4 is loose. Doesn't look easy to hold it, does it? But Weiss played this move, knight f6. Now, obviously, you know, rook takes f6 allows h8 queen. We're protecting the h7 pawn. Great. But what about this move, rook g1 check? Well, Weiss has got something prepared. Not the passive bishop f1, but the amazing king d2. Rook takes a1, and we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've only got 5 pawns for the for 2 rooks now. But it's Weiss to move, and there's an absolutely beautiful tactic available. Well, that boom is for Stockfish, which is absolutely crushing revenge here. But that boom could also have been for Weiss, because the next move absolutely gorgeous, knight e8. 2 rooks down, but the knight coming to e8, shielding the d8 square. And of course we've got another pawn on the 7th rank, so you can't play rook takes e8. I just take back, queen, and then this pawn is going to queen afterwards. Now, Minic went a little bit, well, into desperation mode now. Knight f7 was the defense that I was looking at. But, d8 queen, knight takes d8, knight d7 check is extremely unpleasant. If you go king a8, we've got knight takes c7 checkmate, beautiful double knight mate there. If you go to c8, then I go knight takes f8, I'm threatening h8 queen. So if you go knight f7, can you spot the nice tactic? I'm sure you can. It's knight d6 check, diverting the knight away from f7 so that you can queen. And if you go rook h1, I give this little bishop g4 check. And, you could interpose a knight, but I'm just going to win material. Or you go king b8, and then we'll just finish it in style with knight d7, king c8, knight d6 checkmate. Absolutely beautiful. Well done, Weiss. So, so knight e8 played. Minic went knight e4 check, king c2, bishop c8. But this was desperation mode. d8 queen takes, queen takes e8, and then we get the other queen, and knight d6, queen h4, and white was just enormous amounts of material up. Just 3 pawns now, number have been captured, but queen for rook and piece and an open black king. This was over very soon indeed. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that game. I mean, a big shout out to Terje Weiss, lovely developer who's often very active in the TCEC chat. And thanks very much for pointing out this game. I'd missed it. So many games, 506 games being played in this tournament, but really an absolutely beautiful one. And I have to say that this final combination with knight f6 followed by knight e8 was absolutely beautiful. I have never seen anything remotely like it, nor have I ever seen, you know, the material balance, 6 pawns for 2 rooks, and also with the 6 pawns actually ending up winning. That's really quite amazing. So I hope you enjoyed that game. I hope, you know, all these videos on Chess960, double Fischer Random, you know, they've given you a taste for this variant. I mean, I've always blown hot and cold for Chess960, but after, you know, witnessing this tournament and the fantastic games that the engines are playing nowadays, I mean, they really have got so much stronger in this. It's given me just a huge sense of the amazing possibilities that there are with Chess960. It's not just about trying to get a normal looking position then playing. It's, you know, really exploiting the unusual positions of the pieces in the opening to accelerate your play, you know, and show that they're actually already developed on those squares, you know, rather than just looking a bit odd. And really looking forward to to working more on Chess960. So yeah, really given me a taste for it. Hope it has for you too. If you enjoyed the video, why not give a like or subscribe? Tell your friends. Buy the book, The Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, which is chock-a-block full of fantastic engine play and wonderful tips for how to train with your engines. And otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully see you at the next video.